In this video, I'm going to simplify component, state, and life cycle in React. I'll be using this simple React project that I have here. This is the source code which I'll walk you through in a bit, but I'll be using this example to explain component, state, and life cycle. I want to start by saying think of React components as living things. And living things here can be human beings, can be animals, it can be plants, but I'll be focusing more on animals for the rest of this video. Now, as an animal, when an animal is given birth to, they have different states of their body, different condition of their body. This can be the state of their age. They can be 5 years old today, 6 years old next year. It can be the state of their body in terms of like hairs. So it's possible the animal is hairy or the animal is not hairy. It's possible that the animal has hobbies, so the animal can like jumping, the animal can like smiling. There are different states of their body, even down to body temperature. Today in the winter season, the animal can be cold, and in the summer season, their temperature can be hot. At different points in their life, right from when they are given birth to, they have different states of their body. And apart from the states, they also have different life cycles. The life cycle starts from when they are born right to when they die, and then so many life cycles, so many growths that occurs even while they are alive. So how does all of this apply to React components? First, let me walk you through the source code for this simple project I have here. I have this app component. You can ignore these things that I've commented for now. You can ignore this. But this app component has a dog component as a child. This is the dog component here. This dog component returns a p tag of I am a dog. It returns a button of update temperature, and it returns a p tag of the temperature state, which is the temperature state here. And you can see state of the temperature is cold, which is cold here. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on class components for explaining React component state and lifecycle. And in the video after this, which I would link at the end of this video, I am going to explain how state and lifecycles also applies to functional components. Like I said earlier, a dog can have different states, and this is where we declare the state object in the class component. So I believe you have some experience declaring components with classes, because I won't really be going through that in this video. We've declared a state here: age 6, temperature cold, hairy, true, hobbies, jumping, smiling. This is the state of the component, or this is the state of the dog when it is given birth to. Let's assume that. At different points in time, this state can change. Like I mentioned, the temperature can change when it is the summer season. So we have this function here, update temperature, and this temperature takes a temp argument, and then it uses the set state method of this component to set the state of the temperature to the new temp. And when do you call this temperature? You can call it by listening to any event. You can call it by passing it as callback to whatever, but here we're using it on this onClick function. So when you click on this update temperature button, it updates the temperature to hot. So think of this update temperature method as a change in season. So when the season changes from winter to summer, the dog becomes hot. So that's just, you can just relate that to what this function is doing. When we go here to the UI and we click on update temperature, it updates the temperature to hot, and you can see the temperature now is hot. So this is how states and set states applies to components. They have a default state, and when some functions are called, that state is updated to something new. The set state can happen on the age, it can happen on the area, it can happen on the hobbies, or it can even happen on everything altogether. Now, what about life cycles? How does this apply to components? Like I said earlier, a dog or an animal goes through different life cycles right from when they are born until when they die. And we have some methods here which represent these life cycles. The first one is component did mount, and this method is called when a component is newly given birth to. So whatever code you pass here would be run once the component is rendered on the DOM. So let's pass console.log, hey, I am new here. And I'm going to open the console of this. I'm just going to refresh. So you can see by refreshing, once the dog component is mounted here, it says, hey, I am new here. If I comment this dog component here and I refresh, you can see it doesn't say anything here because that component isn't mounted on the DOM. So that's it for component did mount. You can do anything you want to do in this function, make API calls, update states, you can do whatever you want to do here. The next method, lifecycle method, is component did update. And component did update is called when the default state or the default props of the component changes. So in this example, we're not really using props, but since we're using state, if this age for some reasons, maybe when a function is called, changes from 6 to 7, component did update will be called. If temperature or hairy or the hobbies state changes, component did update will be called. And I can show you that by doing console.log something has changed. So I'm going to refresh this. Hey, I am new here. When I click on update temperature, you can see something has changed because the temperature state has changed. But how do you know what exactly changed? Like I said, this function would be called if the props changes or if the state changes. But how exactly do I know that it is the temperature that has changed? Then I can do my check using an if statement. So I can say if prev state dot temperature is not equal to the current state dot temperature, then I know that it is the temperature that has changed. So I'm just going to say my temperature has changed. When I go here and refresh again, when I click on update temperature, you can see my temperature has changed. And let's go to the third lifecycle method, which is component will on mount. Think of this component will on mount as a dog saying its last prayers. So it is about to die, it is about to leave the world, and you can execute some code in this function. So I can say so sad to leave. Like I said, this would be called when the component dies. And what does it mean if a component dies? You know, this was mounted on the DOM, right? But when it is unmounted from the DOM, that means it is dead, basically. So I'm going to come back to this app component here now, and I'm going to run some code to unmount the dog component. So basically what I'm doing here is I have the unmount dog state, which is currently false. And right here, I'm going to say if this dot state dot unmount dog is false, then render the dog component. But if it becomes true, then it's going to unmount this component. So I have this function unmount dog, which sets the state of unmount dog here to true. And when it becomes true, this will be unmounted from the DOM. And then I'm going to uncomment this function. So this unmount is going to call this unmount function, which updates the unmount state to true. So I'll come back here and I'll refresh. Hey, I am new here. It is just giving birth to update temperature. My temperature has changed. And when I click on unmount, the state becomes true and that the dog component is unmounted. And you can see just before it was unmounted, it's called this function so sad to leave. That's it for the life cycles. Now there are still more life cycle methods. There is a should component update. There is components. There's a couple of them. Components did catch. There are also some of them components will mount. Some of them are currently deprecated, but these are the three very common ones that you would use in your day-to-day building of React components. So you can see how state and life cycles applies to living things and how you can also relate that to components. And this is for whatever components you build, for header, for buttons, for text. Every component has a life cycle and they have their own internal state that changes as the component keeps living on the DOM. As for functional components, you can check the video which is currently on the screen, and in this video I share how state and life cycles also applies to functional components using hooks. If you found this video very helpful, please like, subscribe for more content, and also share.